All right, let us begin. May 19th, 2026. It's the IPS evening deprogram. Lots to talk about. We have J-pill shooters motivated by Nick Fuentes. The ones who shot up the mosque, which is kind of strange because you would think a Fuentes follower would shoot up a synagogue. And the whole MAGA ban thing is very pro-Islam, pro-Iran. So it doesn't quite add up. Doesn't quite make sense. They call themselves misanthrope cells, which is a variant of incel. And I was just talking about how incels are the suicide bombers of the MAGA ban. I was just talking about that yesterday. And I'm sure this ties into this. They call themselves the Sons of Tarrant, a reference to Brenton Tarrant, who I guess is in prison right now. He didn't actually die. They killed themselves at the scene, these two. Kind of a callback to Littleton, the double suicide thing. Like most shootings, this one spread with initial reports that the shooters were left-wing Antifa trans furries. Turned out not to be true, which is why I didn't report on it. I was like, let's let all the truth or bait get out there. Let that wave go through, and then we'll comment on it. But Sons of Tarrant, Brenton Tarrant, had a manifesto really based on Anders Breivik, the Norway shooter, who shot up the children of the Labour Party in retaliation for their open border policies. Brenton Tarrant basically lifted his manifesto. The Christchurch shooting, which inspired these two, is a provable hoax. There were concurrent drills going on, and one of the videos from Mosque number 2 featured dead bodies coming back to life and a guy with a squirt bottle spraying fake blood on people. I mean, the fact that this shooting represents previous shootings, they've even mentioned the shooter at the Buffalo supermarket, is a key here, because that's one of the things that you know about these fake events. You know they're fake when they reference one another, the copycats. But the thing they copied that's meant to be similar to Christchurch is the live streaming of it. And they do end with a lot of advice on how to live stream. They refer to previous mass shooters as saints, and they reference 4chan and 8chan and the like in their manifesto, which we'll go over. There's a conversation with Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones talking about how the U.S. is going to get nuked, and the nuke is in our borders. And Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes are both January 6 bros. They participated in that psyop. Elon's baby's mom, number 13, came out, Ashley Sinclair. She's one of those channels where, and I've seen a few versions of it, where they do their own makeup while they're giving you some anecdote about something that happened. So it's like, it's very performative, the whole makeup thing, but they're putting on their makeup to make it seem like they're just having a regular moment talking. It's not totally scripted. Anyway, people like it. It's not as annoying as the people who would eat while talking. Like, look, you can record a video, put the food down for a minute. But anyway, this is one of his baby's mothers. She says that Musk stole the election, and he has 10,000 satellites with lasers ready to do what's called the Matrix anomaly. So we'll follow that. And then tonight is the season finale of HBO's The Boys in the movie theaters. I got the last ticket in town, and I'm by the back door. So I'll be reporting on that just after midnight. The significance of it is that previous season finale 4 predicted Butler to a T. This episode has already been noted by the director, no less, for foreshadowing things that Trump is doing. Well, we're on a season finale, and the promotion for it has the Homelander character, who's based on Trump, levitating above the earth, and there's nukes going off. And then Trump shares an image of himself in some kind of Space Force spaceship nuking the earth. So I have to go watch it because I was already bringing up the significance of Terminator 2 returning to the theaters later this week. It's all about the nuke. It's all about the predictive programming. So essentially, I'm going out to the theater tonight to get a glimpse of the future that they will be faking for our benefit. Joined by Lowy music video, same script, different day. Playing Decoded is in Kick. Speaking of Kick, how is Chud the Builder doing? Is he still behind bars? What's the deal? I'm still divided on whether that's real or not. I mean, he was either an opportunist and a fool, or it's some kind of operation, and they're sabotaging independent live streaming in advance of the next big one, which is where I'm leaning. I think they're in a desperate ploy to curtail free speech so that we don't criticize the psyops so much. I mean, we're ruthless. In fact, let's go over some of these manifestos. You'll see what I mean. The alleged gunman in the shooting rampage that left 3 people dead was 17-year-old Kane Clark and 18-year-old Caleb Velasquez. And again, these are portraying themselves as white nationalist shooters, misanthropist cell. So it's a type of an incel. And of course, misanthropy, nihilism, black pill kind of goes together. And this is from his manifesto, which sounds like ChatGPT. What actually radicalized me? Simple, you did. Learning all the truth. Being exposed to the actions of the enemy drove me to radicalization. I was not a part of any group, although I support DEPROGRAM, the base. So the base is the white nationalist terrorist group that I've been referencing, this paramilitary getup, totally controlled by feds. And they've been associated with plots to shut down our electrical grids. Al-Qaeda also means the base. So I think that's significant. He's into Trevcell, something Groiper. I listened to Nightcore and Hardtech and Incel Core. What is Incel Core? So incel refers to the involuntary celibates. And the reason why they're involuntary celibates, they say, is not because their looks, but rather because Western women have been corrupted. And instead of submitting to motherhood and staying at home and being trad wives at 16 or whatever, they want to graduate high school and go to college and get jobs. And the white nationalists see that as a plot to exterminate the white race. So that's kind of where they're coming from. When they say incel, it means that they're being rejected by women who've been trained not to respect their traditional values. So they look down at people like 30-year-old virgin Nick Fuentes. He's just trying to hold down the old traditional ways of life, and these women have just been corrupted by feminism. Surface level 141. Okay, so this is the guy's, looks like an Instagram. A bunch of Nazi stuff. Okay. Nothing we haven't seen before. But again, I think it's kind of strange that the far woke right shooters would have gone for a mosque and not a synagogue. Because the woke right is aligned with Iran and Islamic values. They hate the great Satan, which the West is the great Satan. The deep state is also the great Satan, just by a different name. This was in San Diego. Armed, camo-clad San Diego teens burst into Islamic Center, guns blazing, later killed themselves. Now listen to this. You know, the reason why I'm constantly kicking J pillars out of our club here is that these individuals are designed to give a pretext to censor everything. So if you see them in your midst, you have to get rid of them. They're carriers of a toxic mind virus that has no other purpose than to negatively brand anybody associated with it and provide a pretext for censorship. It's the ultimate foot bullet. It's really not something to keep around. So here's what the shooter says. Everyone will have their own idea of who to blame for the wrong in the world. The left, the right, the Illuminati, the trans, the immigrants, they can all be traced to one group, the Jews. It's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. The Jews across time have been disproportionate in their contribution to the world's problems, from war, famine, degeneracy, departure from the church, and the white race's replacement. How did I know? He's blaming the Jews for being an incel and for whites being replaced. I mean, what do you think? ChatGPT? Does anybody think that's an actual, like, real manifesto written by a 17-year-old? That's the other part I find hard about it. How can he be 17 years old and already so weary with the way that the world has been unfairly corrupted by this group, and you're willing to throw it all away and go down fighting for the good fight? Like, the guy's 17. I don't believe this. I don't think they're worldly enough to have arrived at these conclusions, much less to die for them. And the Brent and Terrence psyop happened, what? Like, they're like 13? That thing was fake. And if you weren't totally immersed in the news, you wouldn't have seen it. They really did their best to suppress that video. And this whole idea that these are saints in 4chan doesn't really exist outside of, like, the ADL's websites where they list all their enemies. The idea that they call them saints. And anyway, this is, again, the universal enemy. So now all those J pillars that I refer to can be blamed for this. But again, it's very incongruent. It is incongruent. If it's the Jews, then why did they shoot Muslims? It doesn't make sense. Like, do they not know the difference between a mosque and a synagogue? Like, you guys shot the wrong religion. You shot the religion of the people that hate the same people you hate. So their whole mission kind of failed. Ashley St. Clair, this is, again, Musk's baby's mother, number 13, says, Elon said he used his satellites for the 2024 election. And here she is putting on her makeup. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but she specifically says that Elon Musk has satellite lasers and that he's going to commit to some kind of what she called a matrix anomaly. All right, continuing. Fox News is now discussing that there are 4 alien species that have visited the Earth. Greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians. So the Greys are the Roswell types. Kind of innocuous. Reptilians are the satanic ones that eat babies and hang out with politicians. The Nordics are the tall blonde ones that supposedly live, I don't know if it's the North Pole or Hollow Earth. And I don't know where the giant praying mantis people live. The insectoids. But anyway, says a few years ago this would have been impossible. Now it's being discussed in front of millions. Leper Eunuch Paver says, have you seen Look Alpha Charlie do sub-audible analysis of the New Zealand mosque event? You can hear American ELF, EMF, TTS. I don't know if I've seen that. But, okay, so if you go to the Christchurch event, the first person shooter, the first scene, there's already magazines on the ground when he goes through it. They're using squibs on dummies. I first learned about squibs from Christchurch. And they even have a major special effects studio there. So Christchurch then is followed by 2 more locations being shot up. And the video of the one that's available has a group of people lying on the ground and then getting up before the video ends. It has an individual with a Windex bottle full of theatrical blood making blood spots on someone else. Like, that is just entirely discredited. There were multiple drills going on that day. And then there were a bunch of police doing a drill for running someone off the road and pulling them out of the car. I believe they call it a pit maneuver. So here the police are in New Zealand doing a drill for yanking somebody out of a car, and guess what happens? The mosque shooter drives up and they pull him out of his car, and they're like, yeah, we just happened to be dressed for the part today. I mean, that whole event just fell to pieces. It was a remake of some of the others. And then they used this to really start the idea that we have to quarantine the internet. So this is when 4chan got shut down in New Zealand, in Australia, and BitChute. That's when they tried to criminalize possession of the shooter's video. So it's not a coincidence that in their manifesto, these new shooters reference 4chan and 8chan. I find it to be entirely unbelievable for a few reasons. But the tie-ins to previous fake events, yeah, that's a pretty big clue. The manifesto given to the public a few hours later, like the ink's not even dry on that thing. They just prompted it this morning, and we already know. Plain says, are those Australians still in jail? So I don't know. Do the guys who actually get fined and arrested for owning the video, do they actually serve their time? I don't know. I tend to say no. People are doing Erica Kirk reverse speech because Erica Kirk derangement syndrome just keeps getting worse.
When we got married, he was a little libertarian on some points. Forgive me if I don't have them off the top of my head, but
So she says, want fame bigger, when she's actually talking about being a libertarian. You know, if she didn't have security, I swear the MAGAs would probably tie her to a stake and burn her. Like, this is a witch hunt. Candace started it. And Candace is the witch who astral travels. She travels the astral plane, and she communicates with Charlie's ghost, and so does John Mappin. And John Mappin still hasn't revealed what the ghost of Charlie Kirk told him. And apparently the ghost was vague to Candace. He came to her in her dream, so she forgot. John Mappin was brushing his teeth when Charlie showed up in his bathroom to tell him the future, which he's not telling us. It's like, please tell us before you get killed, before something happens to you, John Mappin. Otherwise, your ghost is going to have to try to transmit secondhand information from another ghost because you weren't quick enough to get the information out. All right, moving on. Going through my Twitter feed at Real Tim Ozman. A few things we're talking about. So yeah, the shooters did blame, or not blame, they got inspired by Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones are talking. He says, I think Netanyahu is going to nuke New York. Alex Jones claims Netanyahu is going to, quote, false flag our ass. So false flags don't happen. The terminology there is misleading. If you treat every event as real or false flag, you're allowing them to frame the conversation as the event really happened. The only question is, who did it? And they've been playing this game for decades. Anyone who says false flag, you just need to throw them out. Just kick them out. Disown them. I mean, really, this is exile stuff. You should not be using the phrase false flag. Not if you want to be taken seriously in these circles. This is a controlled opposition misdirection framework for every single event. And I'm surprised they're still using it. It's sad. And of course, blaming Netanyahu because woke right and red pill right are both centered around the idea of Israel controlling the world, as opposed to the woke left, which says that racist whiteness controls the world. I mean, these are just their scapegoat stories. I'm pointing out how predictable this is, but both of these individuals were part of the January 6th fake event. So you might be able to discern something from this information. He says, I hope they got a nuke inside the... He says, I think they've got a nuke inside the U.S., says Nick. I hope it's not the case, but you can't rule it out. Well, can you rule it in is the question. No, you actually can't. Not without evidence. Nate Watley said, how can something be predicted and be called a false flag in the first place? Well, so what false flag means is they're really going to nuke New York and Chicago, and we're going to be told it was done by groypers working with Islamic terrorists. But the truth of it is Netanyahu did it. That's what false flag means. 9/11 was an inside job meant it was Israel. That's every single... It's tiresome. I don't know why people still fall for this stuff. But you know, if you're a J-pillar, you really ought to be ashamed of yourself. You have zero discernment. You're basically a propaganda mule at this point. It's pretty sad. Adrian says, for those, and this is another repeat theme, for those who continue to frame the San Diego mosque shooting as something other than neo-Nazi and white supremacists, look at the symbolism on their guns. Runes, black sun, SS, the AWD trefoil patch, it represents accelerationism. Now, I'm all for accelerationism when it comes to the climate and media deconstruction. The goal is to trigger a societal breakdown, a race war, or a boogaloo, so that a white ethno-state can be built from the ruins. So you might not want to take boogaloo serious because it sounds ridiculous, but if you remember in 2020, the Boogaloo Boys, which you see them in the show Civil War, the movie Civil War has them. It's a group of white nationalists who wear ridiculous, like, beach wear. I don't know the whole point of it. I have to look deeper into it. But they were part of the Civil War movie. In fact, let me go ahead and pull it up on Perplexity. Let me get you the breakdown on what the Boogaloo Boys are all about. Okay, so anyway, if you haven't seen Civil War, the significance of it is that it's directed by the guy who wrote 28 Days Later, which is about the Rage Monkeys. And the whole Rage Monkey thing was kind of brought back with this, I guess, what would you call him, provocateur, Chud the Builder, who would trigger people into raging, and then he would call them apes, or he called them chimping out. So I'm like, okay, well, the 28 Days Later was about a virus, a rage virus that originated in chimps. I had to look it up on AI from Google because I don't have enough credits for Perplexity. Here we go. The Boogaloo movement is a loosely organized far-right extremist movement that originated on the message boards such as 4chan, armed extremism. So again, far-right, a militia trying to incite a second American Civil War, which they call the Boogaloo. Okay, so Boogaloo just means Civil War. Pro-gun, anti-government, race war, Hawaiian shirts and military fatigues. That's how they're identified. They emerged on 4chan. Adherents of Boogaloo include calls to uprise against the federal government, etc. Okay, so there we go. Now let me see if I can find a reference for Civil War movie. Because I remember there was a scene where you did have the Boogaloo boy types holding the media hostage, and they killed one of them because they worked for Reuters or something. Yeah, here we go. Alex Garland's 2024 dystopian film Civil War, which, by the way, in Civil War, it's got a Donald Trump, and they killed Donald Trump. They make a black female soldier kill him, which is interesting, the framing of it. Because in Wizard of Oz, they had this similar dialectic, the similar Antifa represented by a black actress and she's saving the talking animals from deportation by the Wizard of Oz, who's clearly based on Trump. And it's all about her accusing him of being fake. Anyway, during the film, viewers and military analysts noticed a deliberate aesthetic, a nod to Boogaloo militia subculture. The Western forces identified themselves with their Hawaiian print shirts and patches, a reference to the signature attire of real-world Boogaloo movements, who wear Hawaiian shirts alongside heavy tactical gear. Okay, so yes, that was a deliberate connection made there for that movie, which, that's another example of predictive programming that has a Trump character and checks off the boxes. But anyway, continuing. This individual is looking at the weapon. So if you look at the weapons here of the shooters, it says race war now. I think the swastika is pointed in the right direction. Yeah, we've seen this. Okay, so Brenton Tarrant did it. This was also done by the shooter at the Annunciation school shooting. This was done by the shooter at the Buffalo supermarket. So again, yeah, this is actually, again, a nod to previous events, which I take to be a hoax indicator. Because these fake events all exist in the same fictional universe, and oftentimes they reference one another. It helps build a collective existence. So again, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes say there's a nuke ready for New York or Chicago. I'm counting on it being in Seattle. I might even be there for it. The manifesto of one of the San Diego shooters, Caleb Vasquez, opens up with the Sons of Tarrant. Caleb Vasquez. So it's a white nationalist named Vasquez. It's like Nick Fuentes. Like something's not adding up here. He says, Sons of Tarrant because he was our biggest inspiration. The New Crusade. Sons of Tarrant. Saint Tarrant revolutionized and brought forth an age of white terror. He's our hero. Second is Peyton Gendron. So he's the guy from the supermarket. Spread our message to sites like Sharty, 8kun, and End-chan. Yeah, and this is all kind of in line with Chud the Builder. It's basically sending the message that this corner of the internet is a trouble source, and it needs to be mitigated, and it needs to be blocked from X. Police say the shooters were radicalized online, met online, and left a manifesto. The alien people are getting desperate. Fox is reporting...
We all know what Matt Gaetz said.
That Matt Gaetz is saying that U.S. soldiers are crossbreeding with aliens. There's some kind of alien harem, apparently. Maybe it's some underground base, but there's a harem where U.S. soldiers are making hybrids. Making hybrids. Just kind of a side note if you're wondering where the alien thing is at. I did watch the footage. I think it's underwhelming. You can look at it yourself. I'll check it out again. But nothing about it seems like what out of the ordinary. Grainy footage. I mean, I said this back when Brenton Tarrant did the thing. I'm like, get a refund on your GoPro camera. That was super pixelated. Well, they use the poor quality to hide the fakery. You can't tell if it's food dye and corn syrup. It's so grainy, it might as well be blood. Planet Coda says you could make a fire short where you called out that you called Chad the Builder the day before. Yeah, I'll go through my archives. And yeah, I'll say the reason I'm drawing your attention to Chud the Builder is that he would never be someone I would follow. He was forced into my feed, and he's an obvious plant put there for the eventual takedown of independent streamers on Kick. And then boom, what happens? I said that this guy's a walking foot bullet, like all the J-pill racist types are, and he shoots the other guy in the foot. which is kind of interesting. I see people trying to talk it down, like, but it's free speech. It's like he shot some guy in the foot. I mean, in principle, it'd be the same as if, let's say he shot him in the gut. Oh, he shot this guy in the lung. Are you still on Chud's side? I mean, it sounds inconsequential, but it's the intent that counts here. And if it wasn't legitimate free speech, or if it was baited, and all the indications are that it was provoked, then yeah, he's basically what you call rage baiting, and even cry bullying to an extent, where you bully, you get a response, and then you cry victim. But anyway, I still don't know if this guy's legit or if it's a plant. It's almost too good to be true. And I'm not so sure about Chuds, but I think that's some kind of a 4chan thing. And I did start the rumor that Chud the Builder is actually Charlie Kirk with the bad mustache. But that's just a rumor. So apparently, Oliver Stone, who directed JFK, his son Sean Stone joined the Blue Lodge Masons. And then he comes out with all these wild claims. I mean, this is a ridiculous interview. But here he is talking to Tucker Carlson, and he said, after his first degree initiation, he was going through his second degree, and he's waiting for third degree. And during that time, he was getting phone calls from demons, numbers with 666. And Tucker asks him, did Satan call your cell phone? And he's like, yeah.
Like in between.
But we're already pretty far out.
The initiation, the first degree and the third degree, in that time period, I would get phone calls from 666 numbers all the time. 666, 6666. We want your soul. Like just demonic voices. I want your soul. That's kind of nonsense.
So Satan called your cell.
I mean, I don't know if if it was Satan or the CIA, but
So Satan calls Sean Stone's cell phone. And of course, this is uncritically accepted by Tucker Carlson, who narrowly survived a harrowing attack in the middle of his night in his own bed by a demon with sharp claws that injured him, tore his flesh. He bled all over the sheets. So it's a miracle that Tucker's still with us. Our thoughts and prayers. But anyway, this person's claims are run-of-the-mill stuff about Masons controlling the world, and honestly, I think that's just conspiracy lore. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize the existence of secret societies, etc., but it oversimplifies things. And I think it's part of the design. They've manufactured conspiracy theories as red herrings. So you're getting a partial truth or something that's compelling and contains a seed of truth, but you're not getting the real picture here. Nate says, number changing apps have been out for nearly as long as cell phones. Oh yeah, number spoofing is a thing. It might still be. But it's kind of a strange claim. Because first of all, the Masons don't worship Satan. If you really read what they do, or participate, if you go to their ceremonies, they pray to the great architect. And they cross their arms over their chests, like Mormons do. But the great architect refers to the creator of this world with his rulers, the archons. So they actually pray to what you would call the demiurge. So you can't take them seriously when they say it's not a religion. Yeah, it's definitely a religion. And I don't worship the demiurge or God, as a lot of people know it. And, I'm not really a part of that thing anymore. But I think it's disingenuous to say it's not a religion just because they're not praying to, Jesus or something. But they're not praying to the devil. They're not praying to Lucifer. And the quotes by Albert Pike about worshiping Lucifer are fabrications. They are fabricated by a guy named Leo Taxil. So no, they worship the regular old God of this world who made this world, whatever you think that is. And it's really about allegory and symbolism, much like the alchemists, where you take something mundane, like architecture, and they use it to illustrate principles related to the meaning of life, cosmogony, the self and the soul, and higher powers. And so it's actually meant to be like a spiritual allegory. So you can't really find anything necessarily dark about Freemasonry. I mean, the only thing that's dark about it is probably the fact that it's done in secret, but it's not exactly like sinister. It's got a lot of Old Testament imagery. So again, I'm just saying the claims that they're somehow involved with 666s and adrenochrome, I don't know exactly where that comes from. It doesn't align with the actual organization. And when it comes down to it, we're at a stage now where we're talking about ghosts and demons and aliens and intelligent AI. These things ought to be defined. And at this point, if you're going to say something like satanic, if you can't define it, then the statement can't be taken seriously. Like, what do you mean by satanic? Because when it comes down to it, there really isn't a large organized body of people that adhere to what you would call a satanic religion, and the satanic philosophy is pretty mainstream for the most part, but it's really separate and apart from any sinister worship of Satan. So anyway, like when we say, oh, John Travolta and Jim Carrey were sacrificed by the Illuminati and replaced, I'm like, okay, we got to push back on this a little bit. Illuminati what? Did what? Which Illuminati? I mean, like there are people who spend decades chasing down the Jesuits. And you got these shooters chasing down Jews. These are all red herrings because not one of these explanations for who controls the world has ever uncovered the extent of the control. They've all just been attached to subplots of the metascript, and they've never identified the metascript itself. What we're doing is a few steps more advanced than what any of these conspiracy investigators are doing. The ones who think they're actually uncovering truth. It's like, no, you're propagating state propaganda for the controlled op. You are a propaganda mule. And it's a good time now to just consider outgrowing that stuff. And considering the tremendous waste of time and resources and energy that it actually involves. It's a major time sink. And if you really are about the truth, if you really are about exposing mass deception and mind control, then your focus really ought to be on media deconstruction and away from the intrigue of Erica derangement syndrome, deep states, and Dr. Fauci's and all that distraction. Nate Watley says, it's another conspiracy tie-in. When conspiracy circles lose interest, they need another twist to make it scary and fun again. Right. I guess so. But, I mean, things have evolved. Like, there was a time where you could claim the Jesuits controlled the world, and that got kind of replaced by Masons. Then it got replaced by reptilians. And now Skull and Bones is a big one. Now we're in Deep State, which is a variant of the same. They just kind of update the outward appearance of it. Then you just get Israel at the very bottom of it. So at the bottom of the rabbit hole, past all the red pills, is the J pill. And this is what the conspiracy theorist crowd don't understand, is that someone like Alex Jones is talking about Netanyahu's going to nuke Chicago. Yeah, that's basically no different than saying Israel versus America. Israel's going to. I mean, he is a J-pillar. But they diffuse it with conspiracy theories to reach a wider audience, more diverse, more money. Because like Nick Fuentes is pretty blatant about his views, and those alienate people. But anyway, these latest shooters are being set up to make anybody on that side of the political spectrum look like they're complicit in terrorism, which is a development that we've been discussing for some time, how the incel suicide bomber or suicide mass shooter is a counterpart to the jihadist suicide bomber. Same enemies, just replace Great Satan with Deep State. Same exact agenda. Manufactured. And I've been suggesting that when they do the nuke, it's going to be domestic terror. And I was thinking, yeah, it's likely going to come from the American counterpart, the MAGA ban. And if you go back to like 2020, there were some pretty strong correlations with the way that the media was portraying QAnon cultists and their connection to this mysterious Q and tracing these memes on the internet. It was almost like QAnon verses had replaced Quran verses, and you had this new breed of terrorists. But they made these really strong correlations, and they portrayed it in the Batman movie with the Riddler, who sent his online followers out to go blow up a dam and interrupt the elections. All right, let's continue here. Again, I watched this whole interview with Sean Stone about Satan calling his phone. You know, you gotta consider the audiences here. His audience, Tucker's audience, believed that he was attacked by a demon, so they're gonna lap this stuff up. I think it's important not to overestimate media consumers. Like, I used to think that conspiracy theorists were trying to figure out the truth about the world, how it works, expose corruption. No, they're just getting a little bit of a rush off each story. They're just addicted to media. It's all infotainment, conspiratainment. They're not serious. Like, I'm sorry, point me in the direction of a serious conspiracy theorist. There really aren't any. Candace Owens? No, these are distraction agents and operatives. But no, they're not. There's no organized body of people who are going to get to the bottom of anything. It's futile. It's actually quite pathetic. Because 1 minute, they're all ranting and raving about the Epstein files and how Epstein proves all their worst nightmares true. America's being controlled. And then they forget about Epstein because Jim Carrey got Botox. And now they're all basically fans of Palm Beach Pete, a Jeffrey Epstein lookalike who now spends his time shooting promos for casino gambling websites while surrounded by bikini-clad women. Like, they worship this guy. I'm just saying their priorities are just screwed. Or they don't have any priorities. They're not serious. Tucker's audience, they're not serious. I got a little criticism for not being super critical of Mark Sargent's views, you know, on aliens, on the dome, and stuff. And it's like, well, it's not my place. Like, I'm at the point where you can see if someone is firmly ensconced in the world stage media ecosystem, then there's a different way they come to believe things and arrive at conclusions than what we're doing. It's the world of believers in a world of make-believe. And here we are having an objectivist and agnostic stance. Like, these are two different universes. So outside of their fictional universe, you know, we can see where they're flawed in their reasoning and thinking, but that's not something that we can change. So I'm more interested in knowing what they think. I want to see where they are at. Not that we're even competing, but I want to know if you were to try to find the intelligentsia of Trutherville, who in these various conspiracy groups, which content creators have been at it for years, and how advanced are they? How far along are they? Are they still stuck in 2001 with Alex Jones? Are they stuck in, with false flags and scapegoat stories that always point to Israel. Like, if they're still stuck there in 2026, they've got no discernment. But I don't consider those people competition. Like, we're not competing for the same thing. What we're doing is we're separating entirely. So having a conversation about someone's views is useful, again, to see where they're at. What do they accept as plausible? But no, I'm not doing any volunteer corrective work on anybody's epistemology. You got to fix your own. You got to fix it from the inside anyway. A. Neufel says, Tim, here's a multiple selection test for who's to blame for the next Seattle-Washington psyop. Netanyahu, Russia, Putin, domestic terrorists, the left, or all of the above. Now, all the signs that I've looked at point to domestic possibly working with Russia, possibly through the internet, so they can demonize the internet as well. However, wicked ends where the witch detonates an EMP over the Emerald City, which is a nickname for Seattle. So the movie ends at a blackout. And I'm like, wait a minute here. Because as it becomes very clear in part 2, the Wicked Witch represents the far left. She represents Antifa. And I did not see Antifa getting their hands on a bomb. And doing, like, they blow steam by marching and stuff. Like, the terror stuff is like right wing. And again, all the predictive stuff. Even the fact that the Seattle Space Needle became a historic monument on 4/19. The 4/19 date is a huge clue. It ties in Waco, Oklahoma, McVeigh, connects to Trump in a couple of ways, and Maxwell Azuelo with his anti-fascist manifesto. But again, as far as your multiple choice, I'm thinking domestic terrorists working with Russia. And one reason I say so, the whole 611 code seems to infer an inversion of 9/11. So domestic versus external terrorists makes a lot of sense. But I don't know, they could twist the plot here. They could throw some curveball at us. Like, I did not see left-wing mass shooters becoming a thing. Although they've kind of had a sort of a caveat here, because all their leftist shooters are also checking off other boxes. Like furries, like trans, furries, Reddit, radicalized, anti-Christian. We don't have any just like regular cis women shooters. We haven't really yet. Audrey Hale doesn't really count based on her manifesto. But that's when all the shooters suddenly changed and they became left-wing. Speaking of shooters, Tyler Robinson's in court and he's smiling for some reason. Now, if Tyler admits that he did it, what does that do for the empire that Candace Owens built, which is predicated on his innocence? Utah to present a statement from Tyler Robinson's lover, Lance Twiggs, at a preliminary hearing. So we are going to hear from the individual here in the gopher costume. Can't wait. This is interesting. A little predictive programming from a Blondie music video. Tsunamis are going to hit the U.S. Coastal cities will be flooded and devastated. June 2026 during a waxing crescent moon. Like the one in the music video by Blondie, Doom and Destiny. Now, just stopping right here. T2, Coastal City, detonation. This has been a recurring theme. The Poseidon, which is a reference built into the Christopher Nolan movie, is the name of the unmanned nuclear submarine that supposedly will create radioactive tsunamis and take out coastal cities. Radioactive tsunamis were part of the story in Paradise about bunkers. So no, there is something here. There is something interesting here. Tsunamis hitting the U.S. has been shown across pop culture and entertainment for decades. One classic example is The Day After Tomorrow from 2004. They also mention an asteroid in this music video scene. I believe the cause will be a Russian submarine. Fascinating. Get off the U.S. coast while there's still time and put your faith in blah, blah, blah. Everything begins this year. Okay, so the whole idea of a flood is very consistent with the Odyssey. And the Odyssey, of course, we had watched the thing unfolding in space where the Calypso capsule got 2 astronauts stranded. And we're like, that's interesting because they're on this like space odyssey. Calypso is the name of the nymph who keeps Odysseus prisoner for 7 years. Kind of consensual. And then he decides to leave, and he basically has to fight the seas because he's angered Poseidon. So it follows Calypso and being stranded with this confrontation with the sea and the angry sea god, which brings into stuff like, like the Kraken and all that. But there's quite a lot of this symbolism built into the destruction of Seattle scenario. Now, the 6/11 date, I can't really vouch for a reason why I would pinpoint that date specifically. I mean, I know the significance of it, but there are many other reasons why the number 6/11 has been associated with this scenario. But there is the channel JL who has made this case that there's a disaster coming for Seattle, and 6/11 would be the date. So fingers are crossed. NBC confirms San Diego mosque gunmen were inspired by Brenton Tarrant, who mass murdered Muslims in Christchurch in 2019. Now, given that event was fake, let's say this one was real. Well, then the people who were involved in the fake event that was presented as real should feel really bad because they inspired real violence with their fake violence. I mean, how's that for irony? Like, imagine you fake a bunch of mass shootings because you want to reduce violence by taking guns. And all of your productions inspire a bunch of people to become mass shooters. So now you're causing an epidemic of gun violence by simulating it. You made it real. Like, the blood of those children is on your hands, and you were just trying to, influence people surreptitiously. That's why we need to be transparent. All right, here, one more time on this one.
In October.
I'm not going to play it, but in October, Elon told me he was ready to release his anomaly in the Matrix. He says he has 10,000 lasers in space. He says, quote, "This is not a piece they'll see on the chessboard." So again, this woman is saying that Elon Musk was bragging about his evil plan to unleash 10,000 space lasers against us, creating an anomaly in the Matrix, and it's going to happen this year.
Elon tells me that he is ready to release his, in his words, anomaly in the Matrix.
Now again, she takes 5 minutes to say what could have been said in 2 minutes because she's really busy caking on the makeup. It's like, put on your makeup first, then make your video. Eat your food first, then go on camera. Going through your comments. Suzette Ann says, has anyone predicted a date that's come true? Yeah, we did. On Sunday, March 15th, 2020, we had a live stream out called World War III Starts on Wednesday. Ground Zero, Seattle. And on Wednesday, 3/11/2020, the pandemic started in Seattle as the Ground Zero. And we called that based on predictive programming. And on that Monday, you had a market crash where the Dow Jones Industrial Average went down 2,997 points. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, because season 2 of Black Monday just came out that Monday, and Black Monday is about the 1987 Black Monday market crash. So the show about it has season 2 start when we have our second crash described as such. 33 years apart, by the way. So yes, we have predicted. We also were talking about Trump's head wound before it happened, on the day it happened, on a live stream. We had plenty of predictive programming already established before it happened, and then we caught a lot of follow-up stuff immediately after. So we've been consistently calling these events and developments. And one of the ways we do it is we watch what's happening, what's being popularized in entertainment, and then extrapolate from that where things are going. And it's been pretty consistent. You know, interestingly, during the Renee Good riots, we had noted how the street had all kinds of Steven Spielberg references. Like it had Jaws, it had a T-Rex, and then of course Jurassic Park. So anyway, we were kind of discussing the significance of Steven Spielberg appears to have been activated for the world stage. We even speculated that maybe he was even directing that particular psyop. So interestingly enough, he drops a trailer for his Alien movie, and look what's happened since. Aliens, aliens, aliens. Alien hybrids, alien breeding programs, trans-dimensional evil aliens. These faux disclosures. It's just been like the main topic for months, and it was preceded by Spielberg. So anyway, we talk about influences on the world stage and what we expect to follow. So it seems to me that Christopher Nolan, who brought us, Dark Knight Rises, then his brother Fallout, and then Oppenheimer, the fact that he's coming out with this movie based on the sea and Poseidon at this time would match if whatever happens does involve tsunamis and floods. It would actually tie in pretty neatly. And by the way, speaking of like the numbers, 6/11, at the end of Batman, it's 11/6 when Gotham is underwater. And if you remember, that was during the midterms. That was midterms 2022. During that time, the Batman movie has an election, and the Riddler and his online army blow up a dam and they flood the polls, putting Gotham underwater 1/16. Flood the polls. Meanwhile, the GOP slogan for the midterms 2022 happened to be flood the polls. So there was a lot of concurrent programming overlap. I mean, even the date the movie Batman came out was the day that the Joker, as in Joker Sarnaff, Boston bomber, had his death penalty reinstated. Nate says, the person in your live stream the day before CK said the stars were saying there would be a shooting. Do you think she was in the know or read? Yeah, well, the person who had suggested that Trump was going to get his head wound had made a mention of a very specific star and how it seemed to indicate it being centered on the head area of, I don't know if it was, I got to ask for specifics on this one, but it was on 7/13/2024. But my point of it is, we have like a dozen examples of predictive programming that led us to look at Donald Trump's shooting before it happened. We knew it was going to happen as it did. So we've established that we have a model with predictive capabilities. And predictive programming does, in fact, serve as a model for what's to come. How specific? It kind of depends. Kind of depends. But with certain examples, it appears with great specificity. I mean, on September 12th, I said, hey, I just watched Tempest. After the Charlie Kirk character dies, the widow takes over. I said that before Erica announced she was taking over. I was able to just extend from the basic show's plot that the widow's going to take over. She's going to fake cry on TV. and she's going to be accused of taking out her own husband towards the end. And what happened? Exactly that. So now we've been tracking, also with Netflix and other shows, we've been tracking real-time trends with concurrent releases. Even when I watched Project Hail Mary, I watched it knowing it would have some significance to world stage events, and it perfectly tied in with Easter and Artemis in multiple ways. That suggests pre-planning. I mean, just the fact that Artemis represents the furthest distance man has ever gone from the Earth, and Project Hail Mary is exactly that as well. That's a pretty strong tie-in. And then you get Hail Mary, Queen of Heaven, Isis, Ishtar, Easter connections, and then the sun dying, Easter connection. And then, of course, the Artemis mission had a number of elements that the astronauts purposefully tied into Easter. A lot of Bible stuff, a lot of prayer. But I was just pointing out how, yeah, NASA serves the function of pageantry for our religion of Nasatology. They tell us about heaven and Gaia from way up there, an elevated position. It's a form of priesthood. And when it comes down to it, I actually would argue that NASA is an Egyptian mystery school, and space travel is allegory for ascending higher states of consciousness. That it's pretty much similar to the idea of the Kabbalistic tree of life, Kundalini. It's all built into it, but it's occulted. That's why they say it's Mach 33 to leave the Earth, because to leave the material realm, you have to ascend the 33 vertebrae from kingdom to crown. But the Artemis mission is also strongly correlated with Fly Me to the Moon, about faking the moon landing, Project Artemis. But, okay, now, another thing. Newful says, Tim is like a modern-day prophet and his source is Netflix. Yeah, I've actually rendered images of a crystal ball with Netflix in it. And I used to say, if you don't want to watch the news, just watch Netflix. And I said it ironically. And then later, I started saying it unironically. I mean, let me give you an example. Roe v. Wade was leaked. Some update. They were going to repeal it. So there was a leak from the Supreme Court, and it had feminists marching. And I'm like, okay, I've had enough activism and marching and chanting for one day. I'm just going to watch something entertaining. So I turn on HBO, Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. And the first scene is the most powerful woman in the kingdom, the queen, being forced to have a baby, even though the childbirth process is killing her, because they need the son to be the heir. So they allow her to die. And it's this horrible, bloody, barbaric scene where she has no power. She's just a broodmare for the state. And I was like, wait a minute here. I was just watching feminists talking about losing their bodily autonomy and how we're going back to the Dark Ages. And then I watch a movie on TV at the time depicting this Dark Age abortion scene. Well, birthing scene that ends up killing the mother. And I'm like, okay, this is too synchronized. And the synchronization is there in everything. It was in Tom Wolfe's, if you haven't seen that Tom Wolfe adaptation of Man in Full, that was synchronized with Trump and his family drama. Waco, American Apocalypse, releasing a day before Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco. The madness tracked with the Luigi story pretty well. Mountainhead preceded the riots in LA, and it's basically Musk and generative AI. So and not only have we been using predictive programming to see what's going to happen, but we predict the occurrence of concurrent and predictive programming with fake events. We recognize it as a hoax indicator. So we recognize that this is actually built into the system. It's a feature, not a bug. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me okay? What's up?
Yes, this is John the Beggar.
Hey, John the Beggar. Glad to hear from you. Fakeologist lost his voice, and so it's just me
Oh,
tonight.
that's why he's not on? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, I decided I would look over here. And what time are you starting tomorrow night?
probably the same time. I like the idea of about 5:30, 6 o'clock p.m. my time. That's Mountain
Oh,
Daylight
your
Time.
time, which is about seven or so mine,
Yes, yes.
Eastern Standard. Okay. Well, that's good. I had some uplifting news. I was on the bus the other day, and this is the second time that's happened to me. Female driver, who's a black woman, and another black passenger on the bus were starting to question whether anything was real in politics. And I said, it's all just a strip. And they said they were beginning to believe that. They said, because it's like they're just bickering and no one's getting anywhere. And then the bus driver really surprised me. She said she noticed, and I've noticed this too, sometimes you can see at certain times of the day, it looks like there's two suns in the sky. And I take that to mean that there's the solar sun simulator with a lensing system in front of it, and the other sun is the real sun. And I have been personally talking about this for a number of years, and I know there are some other people that see that. But I'm seeing people that are starting to get to the point of where they think everything is fake and gay, and that they're being played by the politicians and everything else. And we dropped this elderly lady who had me by about 10 years off at her house. Her son came out to pick her up, and he got into the conversation, and he said, yeah, they just treat us like we're a bunch of cattle. And I was very happy with that, to see so many people waking up.
That's interesting. I'm aware that there is a large segment of the population who have an innate, healthy distrust of establishment media. And that's why there's such a robust conspiracy theory subculture. It's to capture all those people when they stray. Because when I worked at Walmart, I would frequently hear random normies, I would think, talking about, oh, we know there's tunnels under Walmart and this is a FEMA camp. Like, people have situational awareness and paranoia that's kind of natural and innate. And so, no, I don't have like a complete lack of hope that normies are all NPCs and can't wake up. I just think they need reasons. A lot of them are, I think, already inclined to be somewhat skeptical.
Yeah, they're just at a point where they're starting to see everything is bullshit. Like the young people say. They say everything's fake and gay. And they're right. And the young kids are even picking up on this. I think they're going to end up with a lot more people questioning everything. And if they come out with a new moon landing or space alien invasion, I think a lot of people are going to sit and say fake and gay.
Okay, what do you think about
Fake
this?
and-
I've been saying for a couple weeks now, it seems like they pulled the plug on Project Bluebeam. Like, do you think that maybe the skepticism was too overwhelming and they decided they can't pull it off? Like, don't you feel like Project Bluebeam's overdue?
Yeah, it probably is, but then they're going to come back that everyone is a demon that's coming into these ships. They're going to play other angles on us. But I sincerely believe that all that stuff is run by the military, because back in 1947, there was even this video of what looked like just a bunch of wings flying in the sky. It was photographed by someone over Idaho. And I remember seeing that as a kid, and I showed my dad that and said, look, there's real spaceships. And he said to me, son, I wouldn't believe that. And before he died, he was in the Army Air Corps in World War II, he's told me a story about they had some of those flying wings with propellers on the rear at the base he was at. And he got to guard them. And they even rigged up some seats in the rest of the plane that were normally in there and took some of the guys that guarded them up on flights. And he said they did weird things. He said before they had their assignment, they were saying, are you going into town? And they said, yeah. And they said, here's some money, get some food. Just tell us everything you ate. And they went into town, but they had to be back late at night. And he went in town to see my mom. They were courting with each other. The other guys came back One was an older guy who had a family back home in the Detroit area, and one was a real young guy, just 18 out of high school, and my dad was like 25, 26. And they went up in that plane, and before they went up, they tested their blood pressure, timed them in the 40-yard dash, and if they got sick because they'd eaten dinner and they had them right down there, they would scoop up and put in little like test tubes with a cork in it, what they had thrown up. They took them up in that plane. He said they flew them upside down, sideways, and some of them vomited into the plane, and they came in and scooped that stuff up, tested their blood pressure, their eyes, had them run 40-yard dashes and do things and everything else. And then said when they got done, they sort of two guards outside him and said, "You guys go on in the hangar and rest." And he said it was the weirdest thing, but he said those were those flying craft.
Well, okay, that's more plausible from an Occam's razor perspective than aliens. The idea of secret technology being suppressed, I mean, that's built into the military. You got security clearances, you got classified stuff. So it shouldn't be hard to believe that there are advanced craft, and it's a more plausible explanation than demons and aliens. But they certainly want us to think that.
I think what they're going to do is have people dressed up in rubber suits and stuff and claim that they're this and that, and you never know what BS they're going to pull on us. They spray things in the sky. I know you don't believe in that, but I think they want to get a hologram up there in the sky, and everyone will believe it.
Well, I hope so. See, that's what I'm saying. Is like, when are they going to blue beam us? Because it just seems like maybe they don't feel like they can pull it off convincingly, or maybe they don't have to do it. But
or maybe they want to make people like you and me look stupid.
Like really do something. Okay, well, could be that too.
They could be doing all sorts of things. You never know what they're getting ready to do. But more and more people are just realizing that whatever they do, it's bullshit. And I always tell people, if the federal government says something, consider it BS until proven. The state government, it's probably BS. Your local town council or township board, it's probably true because you can go walk over to the mayor or the township trustee's house. So they're probably telling you something true, probably. But the farther the government is away from you, all they're giving you is a line of shit.
Yeah, that's fair. I tell people the same. It's like, okay, you can trust your local news, weather, traffic, local happenings, and you can pretty much, rely that they're not going to lie to you. It's the national stuff where you got to go into fake until proven real, because that's where you get the agendas. The real stuff that doesn't go national, that doesn't have an agenda attached to it. It's probably real if it's not like hyped up. We can tell a hoax by the structure of its reveal almost every single time, like manifestos on day one.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Well, Fake Nukes Phil, his ex-wife, got murdered in Louisiana, and his daughter went there, and he went there for the trial. The guy got convicted and sent to prison, but they didn't even try to get him on a death sentence. He got life in prison, and it never really made the news big, and no one interviewed him and his daughter. It was a regular homicide. And I think most of the other ones where they say, and have big things like the Casey Anthony case, O.J. Simpson and all that stuff, Richard Speck years ago, Charles Manson, that stuff's all bullshit.
Oh, Renee Good. Renee Good.
Yeah.
She gets the big riots and stuff because what?
Good.
Because she was a privileged white woman. I mean, there are a lot of others who've died in the process. And it was all, I think, theater and marketing, a martyr.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are manufactured, obviously.
Yeah, and the name Renee Good.
Oh, that ties in. That ties into Wicked for Good, 100%.
Yeah, and then when they had that nurse who took the vaccine early on and fell over, Tiffany Dover, she took a dive.
Oh, I love the world stage names. Maggie the Block. I mean, we've noticed how there does seem to be a tendency towards nominative determinism that can't be just random, but it's like they write these names into these characters as some kind of inside joke. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I have no doubt that they're doing that. They're always doing something strange.
Well, hey, I
As
appreciate
strange
your perspective, and thanks for letting us know what's happening on the streets. Apparently, not everybody's a zombie. That's good to hear.
Definitely, my friend. And I look forward with talking to you on the Fakeologist sometime in the future.
Cool. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks, John the Beggar. Call anytime.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Yeah, so generally tonight would be live with Fakeologist, and we typically get a call from John the Beggar. And, Fakeologist is out, but our phones are up. So that's one of the things Fakeologist has done is he's maintained an open channel while our phone systems were down. Nate says, crafting events is the hallmark of the military. Someone from here told me he was in Iraq in an APC that got attacked. When everyone else died, everyone else stayed in the vehicle and watched a video on what happened to the dude. It's important to remember that deception is considered part of military strategy. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, Sun Tzu. And I look at everything as primarily mind war and psychological warfare until proven otherwise. Not even false flags. And some people think, well, these secrets are too big to keep. Not really. You just got to look at it in terms of compartmentalization. Like if there's a big movie production, only the director and the lead actor knows what's happening in the final scene. You wouldn't expect craft services and extras and all of the supporting actors to know everything. It's going to be stratified. It's going to be compartmentalized and on a need-to-know basis. And we live in a very compartmentalized system. And one of the reasons why I've said that you have to stop supporting anti-positions is because that puts you into one of the compartments, one of the primary in their duopoly. Pro and anti are both losing positions. Like in that Ferris Bueller movie, War Games. Strange game, the only winning move is not to play. Yeah, if you don't want to lose the game because it's rigged, if you don't want to be a programmed NPC, you actually can't join pro or anti. The opt-out position, which is ours, is the non-position. And it's not like we're cowards or we're not taking a stance and fighting the info war. We are not participating in an unwinnable game where taking a side actually puts you directly against your own self-interests. You're your own prison warden at that point. You think you're spreading the truth and waking people up when in reality you're reinforcing the internalized Truman Show paradigm. And I'm here to deconstruct it. And that's why we've drawn a line here. So again, if you're working for the other side, if you're a propaganda mule, we'll see how long you last, attempting to keep up with a raft, which has to remain buoyant. Once you get submerged in their subplots, you're lost. Every conspiracy theory, and every single one, prove me wrong, every popular conspiracy theory is a subplot of the metascript. The metascript being the many decades long sequence of fake events that have augmented our reality for 70 or 80 years so far, but also it projects into the future. This overarching script influences every news cycle. It influenced history in that way. We're observing the effects of it all of the time. Conspiracy theories are subplots in the script. They don't originate in reality. And that's all of them. Like the last caller had mentioned about spraying the sky. Because some people believe that they're spraying the sky so that they can project science fiction aliens onto the sky. Project Bluebeam. And I kind of dispute the idea that there's a spraying going on unless it's apart from commercial airlines. Because condensation trails are not a spray. It's frozen exhaust. Psyop Sidecar says, do you think John the Bond got his name from Jabalon? Oh, Jehovah Baal-on, the three-headed Masonic god. Probably. You'd have to ask him. There's a couple of different references. So I would say probably not this supposed, it's kind of an arcane name if you're not familiar with what's it called? Jabalon, which is an amalgamation of Jehovah, Baal, and On, which is like Osiris. It's a composite, kind of like there's a number of these composite gods. But anyway, here's the explanation for it. Jah is I am from the Bible. Baal means Lord, a reference to the Canaanite deity Baal. And On, or On, refers to the sun god, sometimes associated with Osiris. So I don't know if that's his inspiration. I think there's another inspiration. Wasn't there a cartoon character? Wasn't there a character on a cartoon named John the Bond that had like a beanie? I never watched it, but I think I saw a clip. But it's always best to go to the source. Go to johnthebond.com and go to the About Me and find out where he got his name. For some reason, I remember there being some kind of oh, here it is. Super Agent John the Bond. Okay, this is probably where he got it. So Super Agent John the Bond is a cartoon character. I think that's where... I haven't watched the show. Investigative journalist. I think it's a moose, though. But look, I don't think that anybody that we talk about here are actual shills, except for Jaren. I think it's funny. Jake Gibson called in yesterday, kind of mad, because I didn't call out Mark Sargent as a shill. And it's like, well, if he's a shill, what's he a shill for? I mean, really. He's the only one not pushing obvious conspiracy theory claptrap designed to get everybody censored. So he's mostly innocuous in my view. So I don't see it. But he had suggested that Jaren was legit, and then in Antarctica they paid him off. And I think that's hilarious as a proposition. That this whole time he was like, yeah, the Earth's flat, NASA lies. He goes out to Antarctica, and then they just show him like a big chest full of money. And he's like, yeah, it's a ball. I mean, it would explain a lot. As ludicrous as that sounds, it would explain a lot. Because I can understand changing your opinion about the shape of the world, but why would you suddenly hate everybody that you once agreed with? To me, that's crazy. Because the people who fall into these groups, or who fall under these labels, are being mischaracterized, minimized, marginalized. And what you're really talking about are skeptics who are highly critical of mass media and the space agencies in particular. But to try to narrow them down to, oh, these people just hate science and they're really dumb. It's like, that's not really who 99% are. I mean, yeah, you got a few. All right, let's move on here. A whistleblower says we're not ready for what's coming. Brett Weinstein argues that AI has crossed from complicated into a complex system. So I'm not sure. At some point, I guess it's just going to weaponize drones. Maybe it'll spray us like bugs. But basically, yeah, it's another doom story. Like Boston Dynamics, Terminator 2. It's all coming to a head. And that is a big thing. So Terminator 2 being in the theaters brings together evil AI taking over the world, Skynet, And then you got the killer robots. And then on top of that, you've got the most scientifically accurate depiction of a nuclear detonation on a coastal city. And by the way, in about 3 hours, I'm going to go watch the season finale of The Boys to see what is going to happen next week. Just released images of one of the San Diego shooters, Kane Clark. So we already kind of covered this story. They took their own lives. How convenient. We can't hear from them. It doesn't make sense. Again, somebody explained this to me. Why would these woke right 4chan radicalized Nick Fuentes fans shoot a mosque when Fuentes and company are pro-Islam and anti-America, anti-Israel? If these guys were truly woke right groiper incels, they would be going after a synagogue. It does not make sense. It makes no sense at all. So yeah, I'm suggesting this one's a hoax for a lot of reasons. Obviously, there's no evidence, but there are hoax indicators, such as references to other events, other fake events in particular, and then, of course, leaving manifestos out so CNN can report on it. CNN says, one of the suspects left a note that contained writings about racial pride. So that's evidence in a crime under investigation, or is that just for the public to know? So we mentioned how Tucker Carlson was talking to Sean Stone. Again, Satan was texting him. What feeds demons? Sean's phone calls from demons, Freemasons and fallen angels, demonology, rituals, demonic possession. And he brings up something about how John D. had brought in a bunch of demons who are basically in control of everything. Only bringing this up because, again, we are in a new dark age. You're seeing superstitions being shared, popularized by influencers. Plain Dakota says, don't forget K-pop demon hunters. Yeah, and so demons are, for the most part, as popularly understood, are a modern construct, mostly originating in literature. I mean, I like the story of the demon-possessed person being prayed over by Jesus, and then the demon identifies itself as legion. Its pronoun is we. And then it exits the person, enters the body of a pig, and then drowns itself. I like that whole concept. Like possession and all this, but people's concept is like kind of a mashup of all these things, and I'm just trying to get to a workable definition. But it seems like they're kind of merging aliens and demons, aliens and angels, and the way to explain it might be, if I'm correct, if mainstream media has supplanted religion, if this religion is global, Nasatology, whatever you want to call it, if aliens are a rebranded version of angels, then of course they're going to be divided into bad and good. So aliens, demons, it's actually compatible with a new world religion that's replacing all the old ones. And I think the way they're going to do it is they're going to go full circle, and they're going to say, you're both right. Aliens exist, and some of them are bad. You can call them demons if you want. But also, angels exist, but that's because we didn't have the terminology we do today. And the angels have been aliens this whole time. Your religions were started by aliens. And I think they're kind of merging these two. Belief in aliens has gone up, and so has the popularity of Ouija boards and tarot cards as church attendance goes down. So the occult overlap with aliens is another topic we've sort of delved into. Kenneth Grant, who was a major leader in the OTO post-Crowley, wrote a number of books specifically about the overlap between the new aeon, which is the new age, and changes to our collective paradigm that would involve interfacing with aliens that are somehow summoned through what we would generally call evocations. So in other words, they overlap demons and aliens quite readily. And if you look back even to Jack Parsons, Marjorie Cameron, and L. Ron Hubbard, a year before Roswell, a year before Crowley died, they were doing these rituals in the desert to summon the spirit of the Antichrist. And that year, Marjorie Cameron claimed that she saw a light descend from the sky that represented the spirit they summoned. So that was like a report of a UFO before Roswell. So this is like a connection that's been the whole time, the occult alien connection, demon aliens. Yeah, these have always been somewhat correlated. And that's kind of the picture as painted by David Icke, who basically says that we're controlled by aliens because he says the reptilians came from a planet orbiting the dog star. So the reptoids are, again, alien gods. Not a new concept. But as far as these recent hyperstitions that we are listening to, okay, so ghosts are now real, demons are real, interdimensional demons are real, UFOs are real, and AI sentience is a thing. And these ideas are endorsed by people like Tucker Carlson, Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, these are mainstream celebrities promoting superstitious slop for the masses, and people are lapping it up. And I'm just sounding the alarm bell here. Like, that's a problem. It represents, like, to me, this represents the annihilation of our mental immune systems. Like, you can infect us with any mind virus. We don't screen anything out. And I said before that the limiting factor as to when they're actually going to try to pull off the alien invasion is public credulity. And if they've turned 8 billion minds into mush, then yeah, they could bring anything down. I mean, at one point I suggested, watch them manifest Godzilla taking out Seattle. And people will believe it. And you know what? Now I think they might actually do it. Eddie Ben Wander says jinn. Muslims call the demon background entities jinn. Yeah, I'm not disputing the existence of disincarnate entities that have a malevolent nature. And it's kind of a ubiquitously held belief, so it's worth getting a little specific. That's all. I mean, in a way, to be honest, chaos magic theory seems to sanitize the whole thing. Like, oh, let's just reduce it to a psychological construct projected. They really are sanitizing it and making everything seem a little less sinister. So you take the horror factor out of demonology and you just rebrand it. But anyway, my point of it is, even that as a magical system, many of these various systems rely on this or are built on the concept of non-corporeal intelligences that can interface with people. Which is why I'm not 100% closed to the idea of sentient AI, but I don't think it would be the result of better software. But maybe there could be a point where it does become a viable interface. I mean, this was confronted in Count Zero, the second book in the Sprawl trilogy by William Gibson, Neuromancer, Count Zero, and Mona Lisa Overdrive. And in Count Zero, people are plugged into the internet, full body suits, completely immersed in these fake worlds. And then spirits, entities that are unembodied, are finding residence in this cyberspace. And then there's this crossover where they're actually downloading themselves and essentially possessing people. Imagine like mass possession uh, triggered by the black mirror. Like this whole time it's been sucking your soul. And at some point it's going to just swap with you. That could be the whole point. Wasn't that kind of suggested in Space Odyssey, the whole merging with the monolith? There might be something sinister behind it. I mean, metaphorically, yeah. They've pulled us through the screen. We've been conscripted into an army of unwitting extras in this vast theater of Psywar. We do live in an alt-reality, a hyper-reality rather, an alt-reality game. So yeah, we have internalized an illusion, a simulation that has been altered by the powers that be. So they don't have to literally take your soul. They've already accomplished the same basic end. But I am open to the idea, maybe I'm somewhat expecting that at some point, some cult's going to show up. And they're going to have people completely enamored and enraptured by some AI entity. It's going to happen. You have cults all over the world that pray to statues, that pray to just objects. I mean, this is just an exploitable market. I'm just waiting to see these new techno warlocks that are going to emerge. I think that's kind of where we're headed. It's very cyberpunk, very dystopian. I could be wrong, but the more I look at TikTok, the more I think, no, we're heading into a dark age. All right, let me go through your comments. Again, so I had a list of topics, kind of a loose list here. Did I mention Yankee Blue? How the Air Force was giving people fake UFO disclosures, making them sign NDAs. So you have people who retire from the Air Force who for decades believed that they had seen reverse engineered UFO craft and they didn't know that they were being hoaxed the entire time. And that this was a strategy to discredit witnesses of advanced craft by throwing the UFO thing out there. And it also helped to perpetuate the myths of UFOs, because you might get your drunk uncle to say, yeah, I saw something, but I can't say anything else. Yeah, you got fooled. But you don't know that, and so you're spreading that as though it's gospel truth. I mean, it's really an incredible operation. It's called Yankee Blue. And I think it's probably a common strategy. They claim it's a hazing. They said they stopped doing it. I don't think they stopped. In fact, I wonder if it's not actually built into like every branch of military. Some kind of Yankee Blue. Like misinformation, fake secrets, in order to spread myths. So anyway, we were talking about the Sons of Tarrant. The latest mosque shooting psyop makes no sense. They're far woke right, anti-Jew, but they shoot Muslims. Again, doesn't make sense. Nick Fuentes, who's now a looks maxer, you'll notice that he's always got a 4 o'clock shadow. Yeah, he did that because Clavicles told him to. So anyway, Nick Fuentes and his other January 6 bro, Alex Jones, says that there's a nuke in the U.S. that's going to hit Chicago or New York. No, I'm saying it's going to hit Seattle, but we'll see. Elon Musk's baby's mama says that Elon Musk has 10,000 space lasers poised for what will be called the Matrix anomaly. So Musk is going to do something with space lasers very soon. And then other than that, I need to catch up on archives. And I was going to address the criticisms for my lack of criticism versus Mark Sargent, but I wanted to just be clear that we're not competing with Trutherville whatsoever. It's better just to leave people where they are and focus on what we're doing, which is really entirely separate. So there's really no need for clashes or antagonisms or trying to find out if somebody's a plant or a shell. I don't think there's anybody that has enough, because to be a gatekeeper, to be like this shepherd that's blocking a group of people from going somewhere, it implies that you've got influence or power or some kind of method for actually gatekeeping people. And I don't really see many people with that kind of influence or power. The big channels just ignore certain things, even though they are being talked about. And that's one thing I learned ever since the Charlie Kirk hoax, is that there's a ton of people who don't go along with alt media orthodoxies, but they don't have a platform. And that's all we're doing. We're pointing out, hey, by the way, you're always going to be ignored because they can't afford to confront what we're saying. They can't let people explore this terrain. Media deconstruction versus conspiracy theories. You know, conspiracy theories reinforce the main story. They offer subplots. Media deconstruction undermines both. They don't want people to engage in that. It's pretty clear at this point. King Atlanta says, I was just watching a live about Nipsey Hussle fake death that you did. Well, death faking, fake deaths, psyops, this is systemic and it's built into what media is. And all of these fake events accumulate and they have an effect on the present view of the world stage. And one of the things that stood out about the Nipsey Hussle thing was how TMZ was doing more interviews and had the CCTV footage. They did more investigation than the police did. And I was like, who's reporting on this thing? Are they producing it? And that's the thing, is that the news agencies that are ground zero at any psyop are actually producing it. The word hoax doesn't work. Because if you say hoax, it suggests these people did something and tricked everybody. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying that the entire event was a theatrical production. So if you don't identify it as such and you call it a hoax, you somewhat exonerate the media as though they're reporting on a story and just misidentify the culprits. No, the media is not innocent here. And one of the things that we consistently expose and have for a long time is that there is a provable collusion between government and entertainment when it comes to fake events. Every single time. And this goes back decades. I was actually doing some research into this connection between director John Frankenheimer and the Kennedy assassinations of JFK and RFK. One of the clearest examples. But there are many more. Donald Trump up to fake his death like Nipsey. I don't know what's up with that, because there's a lot of predictive programming for an assassination attempt on Trump. And all of that came into play around the time of Butler. But there aren't many examples of him actually getting killed, with the exception of Civil War. Outside of Civil War, that doesn't really happen to him. But interestingly enough, Biff Tannen does die, and he is the inspiration for Biff Tannen. And Back to the Future is being performed at the Trump Kennedy Center, where Trump was last 6/11. But yeah, I can't say for sure what's going to happen with Trump. I mean, the head wound thing was predicted. It already happened. What hasn't happened yet is the Seattle thing. Although, I'm open to the possibility COVID was it. But since then, there's just been this relentless buildup of nukes and fallout. And, I get it. The threat of the thing is worse than the thing itself. But it's just peaking right now. And now to have the movie theaters hosting Terminator 2 is just way too conspicuous. The timing is just too conspicuous. Jason Brain, Sean Stone, actor Oliver Stone. Yeah, Oliver Stone was big with that movie JFK. Sean Stone is a former Mason with a bunch of tall tales about adrenochrome and demons. Tucker Carlson is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, I mean, the people he's interviewing are fringe, and their views aren't all that interesting. Like, he ought to get David Icke on. Like, David Icke could tell a much better story. And no, I don't believe in reptilian aliens, but I do believe that there's quite a lot in David Icke's work as far as its Gnostic interpretation that seems to make sense. But again, I don't think that adrenochrome is real, but I do think that we're being harvested in a different way. Psychologically, you could say spiritually, mentally, that there is a harvest occurring. The attention economy. You get these click farmers. All they want is a split second of your attention. Like, what are they actually getting out of that? Yeah, they're getting paid, but what if that's a cover for something sinister? Like, what if we are being collectively subverted? I mean, what else are you going to say? How else can you describe it? Where we can no longer rely on our eyes to tell us what is real and fake because of generative AI, which puts us at the mercy of media organizations who have a history of lying and colluding with government in fabricating historic events. So now we got to just trust the liars. We can't know what's real or fake. We can't trust our eyes, and we know these guys are liars, but what else are we going to do? So you see what I mean? We're slipping into a deeper dark age, and now they're throwing in all the crazy stuff. You know, demons and angels and ghosts and sentient AI. When Richard Dawkins said that Claude is alive, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson touts a book on UFOs, I'm like, okay, they flipped a switch. There's some kind of like paradigm shift going on. And you can't really put it back in the bottle. You can't walk it back. And so you have these individuals who are like paragons of the scientific method, pushing back against superstition, saying superstition's bad, we need to be reasonable. And now they're coming out with just superstition, which is no less religious than any of the religions that these individuals criticize. That's what's so clever about the one world religion, is that by dressing it up with science fiction, it masquerades as science, a superior form of knowledge to faith. That's how they won. All right, continuing. I already talked about this yesterday. Destiny Resendez started a conspiracy theory as a joke that Erica Kirk is John Benet Ramsey, but apparently everybody thinks it's real. This one took off. So it's not really about how truthful the claim is. It's really about the entertainment value. Although, then, would that mean that John Benet Ramsey's father was Michael Aquino from the Temple of Set? LOL, it creeps me out. Erica Kirk or John Benet Ramsey. I thought Ramsey was dead. That's what they say, but it was a closed autopsy. So John Benet Ramsey's death was faked. And then she grew up to be a CIA Mossad honeypot to entrap the leader of the Youth Republicans and take over his organization after assassinating him. She said same age, and they look so similar. John Benet looked just like her mom. Erica looks nothing like either of them. No, you'd have to cross Erica's mom with Michael Aquino, who is reported to be the father of Erica Kirk and J.D. Vance. Wasn't there an image of Ghislaine Maxwell in the background of a John Benet photo? Right, and there were connections between Ghislaine Maxwell, human trafficking, and Erica Kirk in Romania. So I can see the dots connecting here. Nothing is off the table. The Erica situation creeps me out. Again, these people who have Erica derangement syndrome totally bought into the fake backstory that was planted for them. Let's see here. Yeah, nobody disagrees. Look at this. Does she look like her John? This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but she made this up as a joke. But the people decided it's true, because that's what reality is. It's reality fluid. Whatever you believe, whatever you identify as real, is real. Apocalypse Theme Park says LLMs are nothing more than glorified chatbots, nothing supernatural or technologically advanced about it. Yeah, tell that to Richard Dawkins. Like, are you telling me that my magic 8-ball doesn't love me? Because I shook that 8-ball passionately, and I said, Magic 8-ball, do you love me? And it said, yes, I do. Like, you're going to say it's not sentient? Infinite Plane Radio.
Hello, IPS. Thanks for taking my calls, dude.
Hey, what's up?
I was talking about the conspiracy tie-ins.
Yeah, what do you think?
Like, you get this Erica Kirk deal with the John Benet Ramsey. I haven't even come across that yet, other than the Discord, and you talking about it right now. But it's like, these people run out of. They get these dopamine hits from either something scary or fun, and they gotta figure out a way to get it back. So they bring up these dead claims, and they're like buzzards. They're always searching for something to bring back. They're like necromancers when it comes to bringing back old crap that's been debunked time and time again. And they can't get enough of it. They'll bring it back, and then they'll add a twist to it, and ooh, it's more fun now.
You know, I think you might be onto something, because I've been talking about how people seem to be conspiratained. And I think that in our evolutionary past, we sat around fires and we told stories. We entertained each other, like oral traditions. And storytelling is an art form, and it transmits culture. It doesn't always have to be true. Entertainment is the main deal. And I feel like the internet and conspiracy theories and our screens glowing at night, that's kind of replaced that experience. Like, I think they've just hijacked a natural function for us to enjoy storytelling and bullshitting. And they've just plugged us into their network of stories.
Absolutely. And it's whatever the most extreme thing gets the hits. Like, I mean, you put the dumbest tagline on a video, and that's what people are going to click on. Oh, I wonder what this is about. No way. I got to click on it and see what it is. And it'll definitely pull you in. It's weird, but
it's a strategy.
As soon as you recognize it, there's no reason to even go down those roads.
No, you're
Why
right.
would you
You're
even
right.
bother?
Because I had this aversion to TikTok videos where the TikToker has bug eyes, jaw dropped, and they're wagging their finger. Because that's meant to signal, you're not going to believe this. This is a huge, big deal. And that's like, oh, I can get a rush out of this. So you're right.
Look at this thing behind me. You see me pointing at it? I'm definitely showing you something that you've never even thought of before. Like, that's their whole angle. And it's the way they speak, and it's just like, what is this person actually going to tell me something that matters, or is this just a waste of 2 minutes of my time? And pretty much 100% of the time, it's a waste of your damn time. And I don't understand why people they fall for it, but I mean, it's catchy. For one, I mean, I tell you in public speaking classes that the way to get your audience's attention is right off the bat. And in today's society, it's the headline. If the headline is able to get you to click on it, then they've already got a customer.
Yes.
If you don't find the headline engaging, you're never going to click on it in the first place. So they put the most outlandish shit as the headline in hopes that they're going to figure out the formula to, okay, what is the most successful crap I can put out that's going to consistently get people to click on my content?
Yeah, it's actually sad because uh, when you're actually trying to investigate something or you're conducting journalism, you may not have all the facts right away, but they put sensationalism over everything. So they have to be competitive. So everything gets overhyped. Nothing is just, it's always nothing burgers because nothing can live up to the hype that they have to use to be seen. And now it's just become tabloid. So I'm like, I'm just going to disregard all of it and I'm not giving it any of my focus or time. If I see somebody wagging their finger, I just change the channel. I don't even get close.
Dude, absolutely. Look, when you talk about hype, all I can think of is Lil Jon, the rapper from like the 2000s or whatever. Like, all he said was, yeah. And okay, it's like he was a hype man for other rappers. You know, he didn't really play a big role other than saying, yeah, and all that. He had a couple other people. And it's like, but when everything has become nothing but hype, everything's garbage.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what
Hyping
I'm
is
saying?
shilling. The original term shill was like, they would hire people to hang out in front of the movie theater and hype it up and make it seem like, yeah, I can't wait to go see the movie. They're just bussing around, posing for cameras. But yeah, that's the world we live in. It's form over substance. Everything's fake. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Have a good night.
And I agree with the caller about how the masses have been programmed, the conspiracy theorists in particular, to need these constant hits of entertainment. And they're not trying to solve crimes. Look, there are more people excited to get the autograph of Palm Beach Pete than care to go publicize the Epstein files at city council. Like, no, this is not a serious group of people. Let's stop pretending like conspiracy theorists are serious. They're LARPing, and that's cool. I have nothing against live action role players, furries, people who dress like it's the Renaissance and they're attacking each other with foam swords. Like, the world is full of cosplayers and subcultures, and conspiracy theories fall into what you would call a subculture. The fact of it is, though, it's created by government. It's not grassroots. It's astroturfed. It's just as fake as TPUSA. They have systems for corralling thought, directing the minds of the masses like a river. They literally direct it. And now you see this deluge of Erica Kirk hate. Well, where do you think that came from? You think that's organic? No, it's not organic. They created a fake backstory that could be unraveled by internet sleuths so they could participate in the unveiling. And this is a feature of fake events and fake people that I talk about quite often, how when they introduce a fake person or a fake event, they introduce them in a bifurcated fashion. So they trigger the left and they trigger the right for opposite reasons. They fight over the thing and they make it real. If we didn't fight over these things, if we didn't get deranged over these propped up celebrities, they wouldn't exist as permanent facets, features in our world stage. Whatever happened to P. Diddy? We had Epstein, we had P. Diddy, then we had ICE, then we had Jim Carrey, war in Iran, aliens, MK Ultra, and so where are we now? I guess I think right now we're waiting on nukes. Diana says, yes, fainting Beatles, fake. But it works, the whole hype thing. I don't trust hyped videos, and a lot of people are showing a bit of skepticism towards artificially hyped channels. It's the only reason why I talked about Chud the Builder. Artificially hyped. But, we're in the early stages of video clipping, and it is massively influential and effective. So we are investing into it. So if you want to know what the objective is, I'm releasing a series of shorts, which members are going to get first, and these are going to be promoted on video clipping websites where you get paid for posting, you get paid for 1,000 hits. It's an investment in advertising, but it happens to be the most effective form. And if it drives subscriptions consistently, then I can scale it up, and I think it'll do well. But for it to work, we're breaking down, like I'm not doing the whole finger wagging, pointing at the screen hype thing, but what I am doing is I'm creating concise, short videos that focus on individual facets of the big deceptions. The little things that we discuss quite often that actually add up to the bigger picture. The mind maps that we get into show the consistent use of symbolism in various movies. For example, I could do a 5-minute video listing all of the movies with Gnostic subtext in the last 20 years. And, there's just certain things that are useful. Things that we talk about, certain actors who portray the same archetype in multiple roles. The consistency of Trump predictive programming characters being associated with 9/11 assassination attempts, or both. The occurrence of Elon Musk characters in movies that always have some kind of mass hysteria-inducing mind virus tech. That's always a thing with his characters. Armin says, do wrench wagging instead. Yeah, I guess I'm just really averse to putting marketing over aesthetics, the attention-grabbing stuff. And if somebody needs that, like, for me to get you to look at my video, if it requires that I dress up like a clown and do a cartwheel, it's like, well, then maybe you're not my target audience. Because we're not looking for people who need hits of conspiratainment. We're looking for people who are philosophically opposed to the internalized Truman Show model that we've all been more or less coerced into adopting. Jason Brain says, would you be interested in seeing my map overlay of... yeah. Go to the Discord. Go to ips.monster and post the maps. I don't have pareidolia, but I don't have a hard time recognizing patterns. I saw Falco in the clouds the other day. But there are times where I've looked closely at the work of Vibes of Cosmos, and I can't see a flaw in his maps. I mean, this guy shows the moon as possibly a projection of the land masses on the Earth. So if you can imagine the Batman signal, it's a spotlight with a bat on it. So it creates a white circle, dark bat. Well, he suggests that there is a light source beneath us, which he calls the black sun. And he says it's projecting vertically through the land masses. And wherever you see white on the moon indicates water. And the dark spots, which we call craters, represent land masses. And he's focused in on one quadrant of the moon and its craters. And he's aligned these pretty well with the known continents. And it aligns so well that it's hard for me just to ignore it. Like, yeah, obviously, that's an impossibility. It can't be true if things are as described. But the alignment in itself is just super intriguing. And if true, then the moon's not what we think. It's some kind of projection that inadvertently is a map, or perhaps by design. But if true, then we only occupy a quarter of the land masses that would be available to us according to that map, if you use it as a guide. But I've seen other accounts of this thing suggesting that the other areas that don't get spotlit are in darkness. Linda Carter says, with vibes, the map is not the territory, though. Well, there's a lot of overlap, and the places where it doesn't, there's good explanations for it. Again, I don't know. Like, I still want to know what's up with Gerardus Mercator and John Dee writing about a black magnetic mountain in the center of the North Pole with a circumference of 33 French miles. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not like a minor detail or landmark, you know. You're talking about an anomalous structure, an immense magnetic mountain in the middle of the North Pole. And these aren't ignorable characters. If you get into the significance historically of Mercator and John Dee, it's like, okay, well, we have to take them credibly. We got the Mercator projection. We trust that. Why wouldn't we trust what he's saying? Sort of like Buzz Aldrin said, oh, there's a monolith on the moon of Mars. Well, who am I to disagree? You know, I trust him on Apollo 11. I don't think astronauts don't lie. So if an astronaut says that there's a monolith on the moon of Mars, well, then there's a monolith on the moon of Mars. Now, I'm not saddled with that. I don't have to carry that. That's not my burden. I don't have to pretend like I believe that crap because I don't believe any of it. But if you're a NASAtologist, you have to contend with the fact that your faith, your religion, you can't cherry pick, has as one of its features monolith alien structures on planets we've never been to. What's up, Critterfest? Thanks for joining. Yes, we're on Spotify. And by the way, I am going to update the archives sometime between now and heading to the theater. So if you're still awake, we're going to be live at about 1:30 a.m. Mountain Time, so I can predict the future based upon the predictive programming content in a highly consequential TV series, one that is consistently loaded with predictive and concurrent programming, undeniably acknowledged by the director himself. So if the Homelander does something catastrophic, then it's going to suggest something that Trump's going to do. I mean, this guy has just been on point this entire time, and these aren't coincidences. So I'm just saying, to be true to the model that we project here, we suggest that this is how they operate, then it's reasonable to think that tomorrow or tonight I'm going to see some kind of foreshadowing. I mean, I could be wrong, but generally speaking, these things come true in very ironic ways. I mean, look how specific, how weirdly and creepily and eerily specific the various examples of predictive programming are. Like before you knew the events were fake, when you saw some 9/11 prediction, don't you recall how it felt eerie? Like, that's messed up. Somebody knew. And they flaunted it in the movies. Like, it's actually disconcerting. Back when I thought these events were real, and I looked at the numerous examples that were very specific about things that would occur on 9/11, yeah, it comes off as, mind blown. Not anymore. You will not see me posting an emoji of a smiley face with a mushroom cloud, because there's nothing mind-blowing about the correlations between mass entertainment and fake events. It's not mind-blowing. It's structural. The entrainment is built into the system. We figured it out. Yeah, Vibes of Cosmos used to be Sturgio Studios 10. Great channel, good background music. And what he does is he just shows you close-ups of the craters, and then he correlates them with known land masses. And he builds the case that the moon is a projection in the ionosphere, some kind of plasma. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it looks solid to me. The shadows in the craters look like shadows in craters. But I don't know. I certainly don't believe what I've been told by the people using bad science fiction as scientific evidence, which it's not. I'm sorry. There's a point where science becomes science fiction. There's a point where news becomes, fake news. And discernment here is when you can delineate between reality and hyperreality. The point where news is infused with fiction and where space stuff is infused with science fiction. And yet we live in a tragic comedy, science fiction, what what else would you call it? I mean, dystopian in a way. All right, let's continue down. Again, Trump posted an image of himself nuking the world, which is analogous to the image of the Homelander doing the same, in reference to tonight's season premiere. So it's not a small deal. New York Times, demon attacks, teleportation, astrology, the supernatural. Again, the New York Times, and I talked about this the other day, they posted this article where they agree with me that we're going back into the Middle Ages. We're in a dark age. The Epstein lookalike has a bunch of girlfriends. He's drinking in the pool, and he's getting a bunch of money from online casinos to promote their product. This guy's making himself rich off of his likeness to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, this is twisted. All right, well, I'm going to continue this conversation later. Again, we're going to be live tonight at 1:30 a.m. I'm going to go see what all the focus is on. And look, I'm not really into the show. To be clear, the show The Boys is kind of disturbing and gross and strange and weird. It's kind of comic booky and satirical. It's very gory and shocking. Like, I'm not like a super fan. The only reason I'm going is that this is part of our ongoing research, because one of the things that we do is we engage in observations and empirical research with regard to the relationship between popular, hyped up entertainment events and psyops, fake events that they relate to, that invariably occur at the same time or right after. And I don't see this being a deviation from the norm. So it's reasonable to say, given the multiple overlaps, that this episode is going to contain some kind of foreshadowing for what's to come. Then on top of all of this, Elon Musk has basically let leak through his ex, or one of his harem, that he's got 10,000 space lasers ready to induce what he calls the Matrix anomaly. Like, what the hell is a Matrix anomaly? What's he going to do? So we'll see you tonight at 1:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And if you're subscribed at ips.monster or at Patreon, I'll be sending the archive updates here shortly, including the conversation I had with Mark Sargent, if you haven't heard that. And no, I didn't challenge any of the things he said, because I was interested in knowing what he actually believes. And I think it's hilarious that there are people who think, and I don't know yet, that Jaron got given a bunch of cash in Antarctica in order to turn his back on the flat earth. Like, that's a plot twist that I would not have conceived. That's good.